Welcome to Delusions Vlogs. In this episode, I'll be showing you how to install the Akishop PCB from FocusAttack.com into an Xbox 360 fight stick. Also, stay tuned until the end because me and Focus Attack will be giving away this fight stick along with a copy of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 for the system of your choice. This is the Akishop PCB. You're going to have a decision to make when doing your own install, but for this tutorial, I'll be installing it at the bottom of the stick because I found it was easier for me to wire. Let's get started. What you're first going to do is turn the stick over. You're going to notice screws on the back. There's 4 big ones and 6 small ones. Don't worry about the big screws, they don't do much. What you're going to do is unscrew the small ones to have an easier workspace on the bottom. Next, we're going to remove the screws off the top of the fight stick. You're going to need an Allen wrench for this. Also, when you're removing bolts or screws from the fight stick, make sure that you do have some sort of container or cup to put the bolts in because you don't want to lose any of these. Now that you've taken off all the screws, let's remove the top of the fight stick. It's pretty easy, just pull up from the joystick. And from here, you'll see all the wires you need to install the Akishop PCB. After removing the top of the fight stick, you're going to want to cut the zip ties off the wires. You're going to need some slack when working with the Akishop PCB. Also, when you are cutting off the zip ties, be cautious as not to cut any of the wiring. Now it's time to unplug the joystick cable. It can be difficult because Mad Catz has put a lot of glue on it, so if you are having any trouble trying to get it loose, you can use a screwdriver to break it free. I would recommend getting some wire strippers. It'll make your life a lot easier when trying to remove the sleeve off the wiring. When installing the wiring to the Akishop PCB, it's pretty self-explanatory. As you can see here, this is the button layout. And right here, this is the joystick layout. This is the wiring layout for the Soundwalk joystick that comes installed in the Mad Catz fight stick. You'll notice that the text is upside down, but when you are removing the top of the fight stick, it ends up facing the same way. This will help you install the wires correctly. After wiring your joystick to the PCB, we'll move on to the guide button and the turbo button. You're going to have to remove this piece from the fight stick. Use caution when doing so because the screws on it are really small and they can be easily stripped. Also, when removing the wires, remember where you unplugged them from. The guide and turbo buttons are the trickiest to install. In this picture, you'll see a layout of where all the wires go to the clips. Just follow the wires and cut those. You're just going to need the guide, turbo, and ground wires. The guide looks like X guild. After you're done cutting the wires, install the piece back into the fight stick. What I did was I cut the turbo and guide wires together and the ground wire so I could differentiate between the two. Now you should have your joystick, guide button, and turbo buttons installed. A quick tip on the guide and turbo button wires. You might want to cut off a little more of the sleeve so you can double up the wire so it fits snugly in the PCB. Now from here, we're going to put the PCB through the hole so it's now in the back of the fight stick. Now we're going to start working on the buttons. For the buttons, you're going to have to unhook each one of the wires. Then, after unhooking the wires, you're going to put the wires through the corresponding hole that the button goes along with. After you are done relocating the wires, it should look a little something like this. You'll notice there's 2 wires for each button. One's going to be a ground wire, and one will be the wire where the button is mapped to. The wires for the start and select buttons are right here. You'll notice that they are just a little too short to reach the PCB. So what you might want to do is go to your local electronics store and get some extra wiring. Now if you can't, you can always use the wire that came with the PCB that's for the USB if you don't plan on using it. It has plenty of extra wire. Also, if you're ready to mount your PCB, you can do so now. I would suggest getting some self-drilling metal screws. It'll go through the plastic easier. You're going to need what's called a butt connector to extend the start and select buttons. You insert the wire into the butt connector and then you grab a pair of pliers and apply a lot of pressure to make sure the wire stays in there nice and tight. Then you grab your extra piece of wire, insert it into the other end of the butt connector, and repeat with the pliers. Another quick tip, for the start and select button ground wires, you're going to want to take off the sleeves and then combine the wires together, so then you have one ground wire instead of having two. Now you should have the whole right side of the PCB wired together. Quick tip for the grounds. What you're going to want to do is combine the ground wire for the turbo and home buttons and the ground wire for the joystick together and put them in one. Now onto the button side of the PCB. As you can see, they already have it mapped out for you so you can wire it correctly. I also put up a picture in reverse as a reference guide, as you guys will be working on the fight stick from the back. Now for the ground wires on the buttons. You're going to grab a pair of the ground wires and intertwine them together just like this. And then when you're done with the first set, you're going to grab the second set and do the same exact thing. Now that we're done with that, we're going to intertwine all four together just like this. You've turned 4 ground wires into one. Now just get your butt connector, insert the wire into the connector, then grab your pliers and apply pressure to make sure that the wire does not come loose. You're also going to want to do the same for the top 4 ground wires. This is how you map the ground wires. As you can see, this is the ground wire for the start and select buttons. And this is the ground wire for the top 4 buttons. What you're going to do is combine the two so you make one ground wire. And this is the ground wire for the bottom 4 buttons. This is what the left side of the PCB should look like after you're done. Now that we have all the wiring done, it's time to install the USB cable. What you're going to do next is grab the fight stick and open up the back. Look for the hole where the USB cable was before. After that, you're going to get a drill and you're going to make the hole bigger to make the new USB cable fit. Use caution when drilling though, because you don't want to drill too far and break something or sever a wire. The USB cable is now connected. As you can see, it goes all the way out the back like the normal USB cable would. Now let's put everything back together and see if we connected everything right. Ready? Here's the home button. Or the guide button, I should say. It brings up the guide. And pause it. So all our buttons are mapped. Here's low punch. Then we got medium. And then high punch. Then we got low kick, medium kick, and high kick. We know it works for the Xbox, but now the PS3. In order to make it work for the PS3, you're going to have to hold the turbo button down, plug the fight stick in, and then turn the PS3 on, and it will sync. That's the home button right there. And see, PlayStation home, the home comes up with for PlayStation. Turn that off. And here we go, the buttons. Low punch, medium, high punch, low kick, medium kick, and high kick. They all work. Thanks for watching. Focus Attack and I will be giving away this fight stick along with a copy of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 for the system of your choice. All you have to do is comment and subscribe and follow us back on Twitter. The links will be at the end.